This is Too Raw for TV. I want to talk about something a little bit different. Um, you know, every time I upload, I usually post at least 2 daily historical facts as far as what occurred this day in history. And I don't know how it slipped my mind that today, 28 years ago today, we lost the rapper who, in my opinion, is the greatest rapper of all time. And that shows an elevation in my thinking and an evolution in my thinking. Because if you'd asked me back then, I would have told you Biggie was the greatest. But that's why I try to be objective. I try to be. We're all flawed. We all have our prejudices, but he wasn't the best lyricist. But when you look at impact, when you look at his work ethic, when you look at who he influenced, if some of you who are younger, if you would have just understood his impact on hip hop back then, without the benefit of social media, I'm telling you, if there was a such thing as social media, this guy would be, he would be what he was, and 10 times bigger. Like, he would be like probably where Taylor Swift is as far as like a billionaire. He would have been on so many different podcasts, so many different social media would have been perfect for Tupac. I mean, it was the perfect venue for him. And he was evolving. He wanted to get into politics and so many other avenues eventually, but he was taken from us this day. And unlike Biggie, who we lost 6 months later, Pac's death lingered, and it had to be painful for the family and painful for his fans. I'm trying to remember that time period, man. We didn't have social media back in the olden days of the 90s. We didn't have that. So the only way we got our news is through television, radio, and newspapers and magazines, or word of mouth if you want to trust that. So I didn't even know that he had got shot that weekend. I think a couple days before he went to Vegas to see the Tyson fight, he appeared on MTV. It was him, Suge Knight, and I think it was Snoop. I think it was an award show. This was just days before he was taken out. And, he was talking ish about how much they would. I remember he was talking about, the same, what he usually say, man, talking about how they were better than Bad Boy and all of that. And they was going to dominate rap and all of that. I don't want to get into specifics about this. Has got nothing to do with conspiracy theories. I don't want to talk about none of that stuff. I'm just talking about what I remember from that time period. So I knew that weekend Mike Tyson was fighting. I think it was Bruce Seldon. And I remember seeing Tyson blew him away. But the news hadn't broken yet about Tupac being shot. I just remember seeing about the fight. So the news about that probably broke maybe an hour or two later. I was asleep. I don't remember what the hell I did that Sunday, but I did not know that it happened to him. I had no idea. So I go to school Monday. When I get to the bus stop, that's when I found out. Because I don't think I watched the morning news. That's when I first found out that he had been shot. So this was September the 8th, I guess. Let me make sure. Let me see. 13th, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. No, this was September the 9th. It was Saturday, September 7th when he got shot. So it was September the 9th, excuse me. So Monday, September 9th is when I found out he got shot. And, I'm getting the impression, because remember he got shot before in New York. So, at what was it, Quad Studios? So I, I'm thinking, okay, there's probably nothing real serious. I mean, getting shot is serious, but I'm thinking, it's something that he gonna come back from. He gonna get surgery, but he gonna come back and talk more shit. But then I start hearing that and reading in the newspaper that he was in critical condition. That's pretty serious. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty serious. But I still thought he was gonna pull through. Okay, he's young, he's strong, he'll make it. But what really started making me suspect that he wasn't going to get out of the hospital alive is when I think it was that Wednesday, which would be September the 11th. I read in the newspaper that his right lung had been removed from damage from the bullet. When I read that, plus that he was unconscious and had not regained consciousness, at least that's what was reported. There's conflicting reports about that. But it started getting bad. When I saw that, I said, okay, this is serious. The next day, Thursday, which is the last full day that he was alive, that's when I think I remember reading something to the effect of the prognosis was grim. That's when I started realizing, okay, he may not live. He may not get out of this. And then the next day, when we go into school, this is like in the morning. At school, there was starting to be these rumblings, these rumors that he had died. This was September 13th. Now, the only way you could get that news is either through, we had TV monitors back then. There's no social media. So at that time, you started having some of the more maybe, the kids is out there, doing what they doing, you know what I'm saying? Or some of the rich kids, they could afford cell phones. But it wasn't ubiquitous like it is today. Everybody didn't have cell phones. I was just, me personally, I think that was my junior year. I would say it was like 800 students in our class, in the junior class. I would say maybe 10 of them had cell phones then. Maybe 15. 10 to 15 of them had cell phones. It was a totally different era, man. We didn't, cell phones started becoming more commonplace, I would say 99, 2000 and beyond, when they started becoming less expensive. But yeah, that's when I think some of them were starting getting calls. Some teachers' classrooms had radios, and we was listening to radios. We didn't have any in the classes that I had been before my last class that day, but I started hearing it more and more. And then when I was in my last class, we turned the radio on, and we asked the teacher. The teacher said, "Yeah." And that's when we found out that he had indeed died, and it was such a surreal moment. I'll never forget that day. Friday, September 13th, 1996. I'll never forget that day. And we leaving school. I get home. I go back outside. I'll go with my boy Alan. I think it was Alan, my boy Isaac, Nate, Beat. I think Beat was there. Lewis didn't hang out with us all the time. A friend of mine named Lewis, but we were all together, man. And it was just, it was like in a fog, man. Like, Tupac Shakur dead? How could this be? Yo, he was just on MTV a week ago. At the top of the game, the top of the rap food chain, dominating this shit. Had albums ready to come out. How could this be? This can't be real, man. And there was such a non-acceptance of of his death. We couldn't accept this. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was a bad boy, dude. I like Biggie. Biggie was my favorite rapper. And I kind of thought, I remember saying a couple months before he was shot, I remember saying and thinking to myself, man, Tupac is creating an atmosphere that's very dangerous. I remember him beefing with so many different rappers. He beefing with the East Coast. He's beefing with, in particular, he's beefing with Bad Boy, but he was also, dissing Jay Z. He had issues with Nas, dissing Mob Deep. He had beef with the recently departed Chino XL, beefing with gang members. And, Pac was the type of dude that didn't back down. He talked shit to people. But this is creating a negative atmosphere, a very dangerous atmosphere, a really electrically charged atmosphere. And I remember saying to my boy Al, I said, man, this is July 1996, around the time he was performing in the House of Blues. And I said, man, this guy is I didn't want to say it like this, but I was thinking, man, he might be on borrowed time, man, because a lot of these dudes ain't studio rappers. These dudes ain't studio gangsters, I should say, not studio rappers. A lot of these dudes ain't studio gangsters. They're about that. But I don't think he cared. But if you look at his productivity, you look at how prolific a rapper he was, how much material he put out there, he felt like his time was short. He must have, on some level, felt like I'm not going to be long for this world, which is unbelievable for a man who was only 24, 25 years old. We lost a major talent that day, man. A major talent. And his void is still felt. I don't think young people quite grasp what Tupac Shakur meant for hip hop. He changed the game. Don't get me wrong. There were other rappers before him, and you could argue before '96, or at least '95, Snoop was the biggest rapper in the game. But Tupac took the game to another level, man. And when you look at the short period of time that he was really, a major figure in hip hop. I remember when he was part of what's the group name, man? With Digital Underground. I remember when he was with Digital Underground, I would have never guessed he would become what he became. But in 4 years, he put out classic albums. He sold 75 million albums. I mean, he did more in that 4 year short run and had more of an impact per capita than any other rapper. And his delivery, his voice was unmatched. And his voice elevated what was probably average rhyme skills. He wasn't the greatest lyricist, although he did improve in that area. But his voice was magical to the point where he had a whole bunch of copycats that came after he died. A whole bunch of copycats that never could quite reach where he reached. Now, I don't like to call DMX a copycat. He wasn't. DMX had his own style. But I do sometimes feel that DMX's appeal was that he kind of had that swag and something reminiscent of Tupac. And the double whammy for all of us was, as tragic as Tupac's passing was, you know what I'm saying? We all, at least on the East Coast, not the West Coast, they hated Biggie and them. But on the East Coast, fans of, Biggie and fans of Bad Boy, we still felt like, well, damn, at least we still got Biggie. At least we still got Biggie. But 6 months later, man, we lost him too. And to be honest with you, my love for hip hop diminished after that. I really stopped following it like that because I thought it was so stupid. I thought it was so fucking stupid that we've been losing rapper after rapper after rapper after rapper. All this young black, great talent being lost for absolutely nothing. Nothing. Beef. I don't like you on my territory. Shit don't even belong to us, really. We're just renting for the most part. I don't like I don't like the way I don't like your success. Your success make me feel insecure, and so I don't like you. And uh, when hip hop, when the beef, the rivalry was on wax, perfect. When it started becoming more about the issues that we all have in this race, which is fighting the self hatred from living in this society that's trained to make us and program us to think that way. I don't want no parts of it, man. But 28 years, 28 years, man. He would be what, in his early 50s? Could you imagine a Tupac in his early 50s? How much wisdom, how much of a prophet he would be now, even much more than he was before, where he would have been. And I do believe that Tupac would eventually get into politics. I think he would have gotten into politics. I think he would have won an Oscar award. I think he would have been so much, even more than where he was before at that time. But anyway, rest in peace to Tupac Shakur.